Welcome back to Horse Sense. Now, away from the racecourse here at Michael Rod's home, I'm with Michael. Michael, thanks for speaking with us. Um, Look, it's been a wonderful journey, but you're fairly new to Singapore. How are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. The heat's taken a little bit to get used to, especially race days, because you got small gaps between races. But away from that, it's been really good. The trainers have been really supportive, and the jockeys is a great bunch of jockeys here. So no, it's been really nice.
How did it all happen? Where did Singapore suddenly fall into your radar from?
Yeah, it was probably would have been about 6 months ago. I was looking for a new challenge in Australia, and things were going well there. I thought if I can ride out the Spring Carnival, and then sort of turn my attention over here to be good, and I applied for a club jockey license, and fortunately I was accepted. So yeah, I was happy to jump on a plane and come straight over.
Well, that's right. Now, let's go back to the beginning. A lot of people I know want to be lawyers, they want to be doctors, they want to run businesses, they want to be bankers, especially if you live in Singapore. Becoming a jockey, it's a bit off the beaten path, isn't it? How did that all happen?
Yeah, look, I left school in year 10 and actually did a building apprenticeship. I have never had anything to do with horses, and both my brother and my father have trades, so I thought I'd follow them in their footsteps and do the same thing. And I probably did the first 12 months of building apprenticeship. Actually worked on the Sydney Olympic site for the 2000 Olympics, but I was just too small. It wasn't really working, so I gave that away. And I had some friends that were in the industry up just north of Sydney, and they just kept saying, well, you're the right weight and the right size, you should be a jockey. And I said, well, I've never ridden a horse before. I don't know what I'm doing. But they sort of eventually got the better of me, and I rocked up to the stables one morning at Gosford, 3 o'clock in the morning, and as soon as I had contact with the horses, I fell in love with them straight away. And, it sort of took me a couple of months until I started riding and learning to ride. And that's where it all began. I got told that if you don't, if you haven't ridden horses before, and you have to become a jockey, you don't have any bad habits. So I learned to become a jockey straight away. I rode short straight away and got taught how to think like a jockey. I didn't come from an equestrian background or anything like that. So it suited me, and I enjoyed it. So it's been fantastic.
Well, you mentioned one thing out there. You mentioned the fact that you first started working with horses. Now, for a rider, your role, unlike that of a trainer, you come, you'll work your horses, then you go home, you have the pick of what you want to really ride on, especially if you're one of the better ones as you are. But getting to know them, how important was that for you, with specifically with regards to how successful it finally made you?
Yeah, it's very important to have that relationship and have that understanding of the horses to know what they're thinking. And you sort of learn it as you come along, obviously, to see, just to have that feel for them. It helps if you've ridden the horse before, but if you've never ridden a horse before, it's just having that experience and having that confidence. So it's very important to have that bond. I had a lot of very good teachers when I was an apprentice coming through, a lot of good jockeys that I could learn from, and that were giving me a lot of tips. And yeah, it's more so confidence, I think, and then confidence in your own ability, and it sort of goes from there.
Who were some of your role models?
When I was a kid, Malcolm Johnson, I got given a lot of videos of his. He was he was probably almost retired when I kicked off, but guys like him, and Corey Brown, he was a fully fledged jockey, and he rode for the stable that I was apprentice to. So I used to look up to Corey a lot when I was a kid, and he used to give me a lot of pointers. But I've been fortunate; I've had a lot of really solid jockeys right the way through, and you never stop learning in this game. You've got to continue on. Whenever you think you've reached the top, that's the end of it. You've got to keep sort of looking out and seeing what the new guys are doing, the young kids coming through their styles. And, you look at Joe and also Manuel, the way they've been taught to ride is completely different to the way that the Australian jockeys were taught to ride. They change their legs a lot. That's the way they're taught. It's something that we don't know. So that's something I'm very interested in. It seems to be that they can get that little bit extra out of their horses. So, yeah, you're always learning, and, it's good fun.
Well, Corey's here in Singapore. What's the best advice he's ever given you?
Corey just tells me there's plenty of pie to go around for everyone, and don't get too upset if you miss out on a ride or get taken off a ride. It'll come back to you. So, yeah, look, you just got to relax a bit, because you can get caught up in it a lot, especially if you're competitive, and it can be a bit of a fishbowl. You're at the track, so 5 mornings a week, and obviously at the races, so you're always seeing that small pool of horses. And if you see a horse that you've done a fair bit of work on and trot out with another jockey on it, it can upset you sometimes. But it can change very quickly. So yeah, you just got to relax and just keep chipping away. It's not an easy game, and it's very competitive, and you're only as good as your last ride. You sort of hear that saying a lot, and it's very true because if you're having a bad run, it starts to dry up a little bit. So you've still got to keep working hard, keep showing up early at track work, and try and push through, and hopefully your form will turn around.
Well, success eventually did come, but initially, was it very hard? Did it come very easy? Um, you talked about your apprenticeship. How difficult were the early days?
Oh, it's very hard. Look, in Australia, we've got such a rich pool of riders, and to compete against, they're all very, very capable. And also, I feel sorry for the kids here that sort of got to kick off and compete against world-class jockeys straight away. But for me, I was very fortunate. I had a very strong stable behind me that was consistently training winners, and I got the support straight away. And I mentioned confidence early on, and I got my confidence up straight away. And I was riding some nice horses, and it sort of snowballed from there. So for me, it started off slowly, but it continued on very quickly.
All right, you talked about the young riders out here. Those that you've seen in Singapore, who's caught your eye?
I've done a lot of work with young Zimmerman, so I ride work with Bruce Marsh, so he's doing a really good job, and also Ruben from Laurie Laxons. But I'm still getting to know a lot of the kids. They're all still learning. It's like I said, it's a tough place for these guys. They only ride a couple of days a week. In Australia, when I was a kid, I'd be riding up to 5 days a week, and I'd be having anywhere from 30 to 40 rides. Where these guys are only having 3 or 4 rides, some of them. So it's hard to get the experience, and then they're competing against us. So look, it's a tough school for them up here, and they've definitely got a job ahead of them. But yeah, a lot of the boys are doing a really good job.
And then, of course, there's the race fitness because, like you said, you're riding 5 times a week and you've got a number of rides each day. It's one thing getting fit in the gym. It's another thing getting fit in the morning, but it's another thing altogether getting race fit, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, there's nothing like race fitness. You can, if you have a suspension or you're off with an injury and you come back riding, you try and tick every box possible. You're riding a lot of track work. You're in the gym, obviously looking after your weight. But you have that first ride after the comeback, and you're absolutely stuffed. You actually feel like you want to drive reach. You're not really thinking straight in the head. So you've just got to be hard to it, especially here in this heat. It's you've got to go around a fair bit to sort of get your fitness up.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break right now. We're not done with you yet, Michael, because we want to come back. We want to talk about the Cox Plate and, of course, the Melbourne Cup, and learn a little bit more about who you are as a person, some of your ambitions. We'll take a break and come right back to Horse Sense. Don't go anywhere.